We kick things off on Busan, and we are going to waste no time here on Sanctuary.
And neither team wants to play the 3-3 goats as well. It's going to be 2-2-2 all around here on both sides.
And two very different 2-2-2s for what it is worth as well. Nova with a very high mobility kind of composition here, and it's paying off well. One with the spam damage with Blue playing cleanup crew. Good counter trade on Nexus though. Does alleviate some of that forward pressure. But until Yang Yang and Eternal can really get going, this could be a bit of a scrap.
You do still have a lot of members going down to the Nova side. They need to make some return kills, but one's being pressured out quite a decent amount. Nexus already swapping onto Winston.
Oh, nice catch by Jackie as well. And one was doing quite well up until that point, hitting about that 60% on the ult charge. It had good spam damage. Was starting to charge the ultimate, but started not being able to get those rocket shots after the shield started going.
And one of the advantages that Nova does have is that Blue is a decent amount ahead of X69, who did go down quite early in that opening fight. So now going to fight number 2, waiting for the first ultimates to come up from either team.
And also that's going to be the EMP plus the Rocket Barrage potentially laid on top of it, which means you can't shield it out with either of those two main tanks. Also great shots onto GCGG. That's already operating at an advantage. X69 doing a good job to catch up in EMPs, but now Blue's going to look for a down catch by Jackie. That's huge. One still maybe wants to commit this Rocket Barrage with the rally out. GCGG is going to be back here before too long. Nice catch out on Nexus as well, and I think the wind is kind of taken out of Nova's sails there. Cyclone coupling have weathered the worst of it.
Nova's going to back out here, wait for the respawners. Nexus is the only one that they really still have to go on. And for Restia, use the Valkyrie in that fight as well. What they do have is that there's no more EMP on the opposing team from Cyclone coupling. They do still have to deal with Transcendence coming online soon, Sound Barrier coming after that, and then of course the Graviton Surge from Eternal.
Also Yang Yang's Earth Shatter. Nova's lineup, with the exception of One and Restia, are very susceptible to an Earth Shatter. Oyo having to pop down a Bionade just to keep himself alive in that flank, and also has drawn the attention of Crazy S. So now they finally commit in with the EMP and the Rocket Barrage beautifully laid on. They take the shields out of the picture quick, smart. Counter traders there on one, but the damage has been done. Nicely handled by Nova, but Cyclone coupling have done a good job of stalling this up to this percentage. Nova aren't out of the woods just yet, having to commit a res. Don't want to commit any more ultimates if they don't have to, but they do clean up the last few kills and get the cap as Cyclone hit 90%.
I know that Transcendence was used there by GCGG as well. X69 waiting for EMP now. This is the first flip of the game. 91% for Cyclone coupling is a massive lead in terms of actual point progress. Nova Esports have a lot of ultimates themselves to kind of rotate into, and they're going to need to make sure each of them get a lot of value to be able to hold on to this point. The EMP from X69 is going to be very big if it lands on the correct targets.
It's a bit tough as well. The team already so susceptible to Earth Shatter, they will lose the only other tools they have to defend against it, aside from One and Restia literally being airborne. There's going to be that EMP out. They need to get a quick follow-up. But nice counter hack action onto X69. Self-destruct as well. Really takes the wind out of those sails. The Earth Shatter, it does catch Blue in the mix. Crazy S needs to be careful. They're trying to drill down Jackie, but not quite getting those last few shots in. And now the rally to come out from Jackie has kind of saved that situation. Nexus with the Primal Rage with Crazy S out of the mech. One is working double time here, and he does get Eternal out. That's a nice turnaround there. Picking up Red Fox.
Should be enough kills.
In the barrage. Did get strike out, well, fire strike out, but the res is in, and Nova should hold on.
And this is where you see after the EMP and Sound Barrier used by Cyclone coupling, they don't actually have a lot of tools remaining. Point is still under the control of Nova. Two members did go down late for Nova, so you could see a very quick retake now from Cyclone. And if they do, and they have, we're about to hit to 99.
The catch on one there, the late catch by Eternal has maybe sealed the deal here. Nice work by Nexus to get to the point, extend that overtime, but the EMP is there from X69. Blue comes in with the counter EMP, but GCGG was not in it. Gets a Transcendence off, self-destruct finds Restia, and Blue did go down to his counterpart X69 a moment ago. One will not be getting a crazy string of kills for this one, and it does look like Cyclone coupling have all but sealed the deal on Sanctuary here to kick off this very first map 1-0.
It was a decent comeback from Nova Esports, 61% to 100. That first 91 was so decisive, was such a huge lead for Cyclone coupling. Winning one fight towards the end there got them back into that game. And for Nova, dropping a couple of members to Yang Yang as they were starting to win that fight, having what was going to be slower respawns due to the fact that Cyclone coupling had their members going down earlier. Then they get that recap. Nova just did not have the members to come back in, didn't have the remaining ultimates as well. Both teams spent a lot on the previous fight to try and win that one. Nova did, eventually, but then they lost very quickly as well.
This is curious. Nova are running the team comp that Cyclone Coupling ran in 2 straight goats for their quarterfinal. To resounding success, if we remind you, on Control. I'm curious to see how Cyclone Coupling deal with it from Nova.
So the difference is, though, we are on Mecha Base, where it is slightly better. In fact, probably a lot better. Just go for the standard 3-3 Ryan goats. One's going to need to do a lot of work here.
Nice pop-up onto Yang Yang, though.
Still
and back in, catching Red Fox as well. I mean, that's a twofer if I ever saw one. Speaking of one, he does go down, but the damage is done there. GCGG picks, and Nova even getting some late kills. Well poised to take this cap as it unlocks.
And I'm watching Jeki right now. What does he respawn as? Does he try and match the Doomfist that one currently has? Is Nova about to cap out? This is going to be quite telling from Cyclone Coupling. So far, a lot of confidence in staying on the standard 3-3, but they are going to be locked up in this choke point.
Like I said, this is what Cyclone Coupling use against goats who feel they should be able to counter it out. They should be equipped, but double charge in. Nexus taking the worst part of that, but good bit of damage, and one gets a cheeky one on the side against Yang Yang. Now they're going to go in with a Meteor Strike, isolate some members off from one another. Good quick fingers there by Jeki to get the stun on one. Stop that being too devastating, but it is still essentially a team wipe, just slightly delayed.
And even a late kill on the X69 as well. This is where Cyclone Coupling are really starting to struggle. They are getting some ultimates online very soon, and Nova Esports, they are missing that Diva player. So that means once X69 does have a grab, he should have advantage here. He's also ahead of Crazy S. This is something they can rely on, but Oyo should be ready to counter.
Oh god, another great charge in from Nexus. Good grab though, and they do pick Nexus up in that, but again, damage is kind of done there. The Transcendence keeps the race safe. Yang Yang's already down, so Nova's still sitting on a numbers advantage, with one just kind of having free reign. Smack dab onto X69. Now Jeki's opened up, he's exposed, he's down. Cyclone Coupling again, taking a very tough fight loss on the chin, and that was with ultimates committed.
I expect Jeki to maybe consider a change. He's already used the rally. Here it is. It's going to be double change. X69, Jeki, and Yang Yang make that 3, even 4 on Red Fox. They want to turn things around. They know time is running out. They know they're 70% on the ball for Nova, and they need some options, but they only have 2 ultimates to play with.
This is what Nova rolled out on, if I'm not mistaken. Might be a slight difference. That's an interesting grab there. Keeps some members a little bit isolated. They don't get the quick kills to come off it, though. And Oyo a little low as Nova have to pull back and reset. They haven't actually got much for those ultimates, so Cyclone are kind of pleased here because they don't really have ultimates of their own.
Nova need to find a kill. So far they've been winning a lot of fights off early picks. This time around, very difficult. There's a lot of slippery members on the side of Coupling.
Great pressure on one though. It means he can't go into those picks. And look at this, Jeki's just keeping the pressure on.
Unscored.
Between him and X69, they're just this 2-man hit squad. We are hitting that 99%, and Nova decided to commit here. Earth shattered down. They aren't able to get that follow-up on Yang Yang. He's getting healed up. Nice charge in. Just barely getting that in the nick of time. And that has removed the tank line now. They are very much reliant on Jeki and X69 playmaking. Red Fox is sticking in the pocket of Jeki. Goes down to Oyo, only getting one with the right.
Now.
One finds one as well. And that's no res available either with Red Fox being picked by Blue. I think it is all over for Nova, who are looking to tie things up 1-1 on Mecha Base with a 100-0 shutout. Just looking to finish off Yang Yang and now Eternal. And that's going to be all she wrote.
Very decisive from Nova there as well. 0% for Cyclone Coupling. They get nothing on the board for this entire Mecha Base. Jeki finally come out on the Doomfist, but for Cyclone Coupling, just running into walls. They didn't know what they were going to play. Lost a few too many fights in a row, then decided now it's time to make the change. Not really the kind of change you're looking for. To be honest, maybe Jeki just plays his own Doomfist. To be honest, maybe they play a Super McCree, try and shut down one, but by that stage, too much percentage on the board. Over 70% in favor of Nova Esports. And Cyclone Coupling just did not have the firepower. Making a swap back late as well means very difficult to get ultimates, and guess who holds all the ultimates? It was Nova.
Speaking of, I think this is a great read by Nova. I think they know that Cyclone Coupling don't want to play straight goats into Nova after one pulled out that Doomfist. So now they're pulling out some snipers, and again, going back to the Pharah, they want to get that individual pick pressure.
This is going to be very important for Blues off. He doesn't have the pressure here, and it's going to be difficult because Jeki and X69 can get into his face. In fact, Jeki wants to make the swap right now. Cyclone Coupling are going back to base.
And onto a Tracer of all things. So this is dive, essentially. This is very, very curious. I mean, this is kind of the later dive where we were seeing the Sombra over the Genji.
To be fair, he could probably choose to play his own Widowmaker right now. The point does open. The reason you want to play Widowmaker against Cyclone is you can actually counter out both Blue and One with that one pick, but still waiting for Blue to have some impact here.
The thing, I feel like there should be more great targets for Blue to click the heads off, but instead, those great targets are busy on the point, muscling out the tanks of Nova, and the tanks are busy dealing with Blue. So it's all just kind of done there for Nova without really any kills or much resistance.
This is where Nova's going to make their own swaps as well. Blue wants to match Jackie on that Tracer. One's going to match X69 as well on the Sombra, but both players are going to be a decent amount behind. Orio's still playing the Moira here as well versus the Sound, versus the, or rather Red Fox and GCGG who are on the Lucio and the Ana mix. So what the Moira is going to be able to do though is probably protect himself from those DPS.
Welcome to Pacific. Goats who? I mean, this is a surprise. Oh, not really a surprise, I guess, with these two teams, but at any rate, it's a pleasure as we see both Tracers just, again,
coming online.
Taking the flank around, and a nice nano boost onto Yang Yang keeps that board pressure. That's kind of the beginning of the end, rather, for that fight, as Cyclone Coupling have set themselves up to just collapse in on Nova.
This is where you just cash in that ultimate advantage as well. Double DPS ults thrown in there. Nova Esports just about 50% for both their DPSs. Oreo went down super quick as well, so far that Moira Fade only helping him out slightly. For Cyclone Coupling, able to snowball this one through. Nearly 50% in advantage, and Nova Esports still looking for answers here, still looking for options, and they are running out of options.
They maybe can afford to lose one more fight, and are potentially likely to, just with what Cyclone Coupling have banked up. Blue going down to GCGG in essentially a 1v1 is disaster. Yang Yang the only casualty so far, but if One's busy with tanks, then he's not putting that pressure on these backliners who are busy keeping people like Eternal and X69 and Jackie in the fight. Nova know what's up, they see the writing on the wall, few members going to take a dive, and Nexus unfortunately suffers a late death.
To be honest, the writing was on the wall very early because Nova lost a couple of members super early. Then they try and stay in the fight anyway, or were unable to reset cleanly. Don't get those members out. We're already over 85% just. Cyclone Coupling have 5 ults, nearly 6 on the EMP. Nova, they got to get a big one themselves.
And this is going to be the big kahuna. One translocated in to try and set himself up for an EMP. Had to run back.
Losing members.
Already losing members very early. Cyclone Coupling just with those extra few ultimates able to muscle out. Rescue going down just shy of a sound barrier as well. Nova, there's not a lot to go on here. Kind of running on fumes, and X69 with that EMP will seal the deal. That is going to be Cyclone Coupling with their own shutout, securing Busan.
That was a very contentious map as well. It went both ways here. One for Cyclone Coupling, then one coming back from Nova's direction, then one finishing up on the Cyclone Coupling side. 2 of those went to 100-0, like you mentioned. So we do here now have a 1-0 on the map, on the scoreboard rather, in favor of Cyclone Coupling starting out in the series. But that was still a sort of series where you look at that one map and think that could have possibly still gone either way. Very poor starts for both teams on Mecha Base, and then following that on Downtown as well, which led to that team's demise.
One thing I do feel from that, just on the whole, I feel that when they had to change their team compositions, Nova struggled a bit more. Their most successful map was Mecha Base, where they didn't have to make any changes at all. Cyclone Coupling did make a couple of changes, both on Sanctuary and, of course, on Downtown. And to relatively good effect. They saw what was being played. They went, okay, let's change things up. Whenever Nova were in that situation going, well, this isn't working, we need to change things up. This was more so on Sanctuary, but we did see it a bit as well on Downtown. They'd make the change, but just weren't getting any newfound success with the changes they were making to their team comps.
We're actually starting to see here, which is quite interesting, is they're both kind of playing goat's chicken, and what I mean by that is, I just named 2 animals. What I mean by that is
starting a petting zoo.
Basically, what I'm trying to get to here is the fact that they both expect the other team to probably come out with the 3-3 goats, whether it's the Reinhardt version or the Winston version. You're seeing that through the fact that there was a Widowmaker and the Fire as well on Downtown, which we've seen to great effect from teams like GE Pantheon, where they've dismantled teams that have started out goats when they ran those particular heroes. They're coming out with, you know, we have Doomfist, we have Sombras, you go back to Sanctuary as well. Both teams had compositions that you would normally expect. This is what you run when you expect the goats on the other side. You have a Hammond, you have a Wrecking Ball coming through. That's designed specifically to try and counter out the Rhine on the other team. In some cases, this is working out where, for example, Mecha Base, you start with the Doomfist and you think, okay, we want to play some sort of soft counter here. You do expect the Rhine goats on the other side. That's exactly what they got delivered to them, and then they won because of that in some part.
And I have to say I was a little surprised as well, purely because that's what Cyclone Coupling kind of use against a lot of GOATS compositions. I don't think they'll let that happen to them twice, though.
The second time around, we are going to go to Hybrid. To find out about how this game mode works, take a look at this.
Welcome to Eichenwald. This is Hybrid. Two teams face off as either defenders or attackers. The attacking team has a limited amount of time to first capture a payload and then escort it along a set path containing 2 checkpoints. To capture the payload, the attackers need to stand within its range for a set amount of time. Defenders can delay capture progress by also standing in range. The attackers must work together to clear away the defenders. If successful, they score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The payload only moves forward when an attacker stands near it. Defenders can delay the payload's movement by standing nearby. To get moving again, the attackers must clear away the defenders by force. If even one attacker is capturing the objective or on the payload when the time runs out, the game enters overtime. This extends play indefinitely until the attackers are either cleared away or they gain more time by reaching a checkpoint. Every time the payload reaches a checkpoint, the attackers score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The round ends when the payload reaches the destination or when time runs out. Teams switch sides each round. Whichever team scores the most points and escorts the payload farthest wins.
That there is Hybrid. Second map has been chosen here as well, and it will be Numbani to round things out here for the first half of the semi-final. Of course, one map going the way of Cyclone Coupling. Now looking at Nova. Can they swing things back around?
All right, Numbani. This is an interesting one. We have seen a lot more Hollywood than we've seen Numbani, but we have seen a decent amount of Numbani out of both of these teams. So I'm curious, to say the least. And I think the thing that is driving my curiosity the most is kind of just continuing what we were talking about with regards to the control maps, with the compositional swaps that teams were making, with shifting up heroes and trying to counter things out. You kind of mentioned this concept of goat's chicken, which I think is very much applying. I'm curious to see how that ultimately plays out on Numbani, where you've got a lot more of that verticality, where things like the Pharah, things like the Widowmaker, things like the Tracer even, a lot of these picks can be very much enabled. Even Genji's we're seeing on attack. And I'm curious as to see how that is going to affect the compositional catch-up, this kind of arms race that both of these teams are having against one another with the hero swaps.
Because there is a psychological factor now, is we've played now 3 rounds of Busan where this has just been happening over and over. Both teams have been kind of expecting the other team to be playing the GOATs first, except for maybe Cyclone Coupling, who did run the 3-3 on Mecha base. But aside from that factor, the other 5 were all, both teams expected something from the other team. That wasn't the case. And the reason it's Ghost Chicken is which team bites the bullet and makes that change first. In some cases, well, the thing is, sometimes you do want to, because when Cyclone Company did that on Downtown, they came out ahead, and it was a very late swap then to counteract that from Nova Esports. That did cost them a lot of time on that Downtown round as well. So going into Numbani, like you sort of mentioned, across the points here, we do have a lot of versatility that is available for both teams. So these are 2 of the teams still in the tournament that across the entire season have wanted to play more counter GOATs or not GOATs. So we'd like to see maybe if they'll continue that trend now.
Of course, now we've got these 2 teams. We've got Cyclone Coupling 1-0 up, and there is the argument that Cyclone Coupling come in as our kind of new favorite, at least as far as this matchup is concerned. And that does actually put the onus on Nova to shift the gear up a little bit after control, to not be always getting the worst off with all those hero swaps, the compositional catch-up, the arms race that's been going on in the pick meta here.
All we can say is because they did get that round in the middle, which was quite decisive for them, quite one-sided in their favor, there is still a decent amount of confidence here. They know they're close. They know that even if Cyclone Coupling are kind of favored after beating Talon Esports, Nova didn't beat Talon Esports, that Nova have a shot in this. They got more than a shot in this. It still could be very competitive, but a lot comes down to how this map goes. If Nova gets shut out here, and it is a 2-0 for Cyclone Coupling, things start to look very bad.
The alternative explanation is Nova can play one thing and play it very well, and maybe Cyclone Coupling can just play more things. Certainly this will be a test of that.
Well, you see here the Super McCree coming up from Cyclone Coupling first. They're expecting maybe one will go on the Doomfist, but even if he doesn't, if he plays Safari here, the McCree is still a decent enough pick to counter him out. So, decent start for Cyclone Coupling composition-wise.
There is the question as to whether Nova will eventually make a swap here. Thing is, One's actually got off to a good start in terms of charging the ultimate, so unless this fight goes terribly for them, they'll probably want to stick on that. And speaking of the fight, Crazy S is just going to get muscled out of that mech. They're trying to counter-trade with either Eternal or Yang Yang, but unfortunately the attention's kind of split between the two tanks. They're struggling to get that through. Good stun on X69, but they don't quite close him out. Look at that sliver of health he's got going on there, and while that's all going on, they just wash out the rest of Nova.
You see a lot of this comes down to the tanks as well, because for the DPSs, if you're X69 all one, you don't want to play sightlines. You don't, well, when I say that, I mean you don't want to push sightlines necessarily. If you're one, you don't want to get taking shots from the McCree on the other side. If you are the McCree on X69, you don't want to be eating rockets either. So both playing super safe, waiting for tanks to engage, waiting to punish those divers, and it was Cyclone Coupling that got that first D-make on Crazy S.
Now they're going in, again aggressively, tanks diving up, but Nexus just gets absolutely swamped by damage, and unfortunately, One and Oyo couldn't get into that flank in time as well. So again, another fight just going to slide the way of Cyclone without too much difficulty, and again, now Nova in that situation, do they swap or not?
This is where for Nova Esports as well, playing very quickly, they just want to dive on top of Cyclone, who knows that they have the ult advantage here going to the next fight, and the swap does happen here. Nova does go now onto the Zarya, One forgoes the Rocket Barrage completely. Oyo changes onto the Zen as well, coming out from Mercy. So Nova now a lot more behind. This fight is probably not going to go well for them outside of some crazy opening picks. For Cyclone, could be a very comfortable fight.
Real tough break, you got to say, to give up that ultimate. Early pick on Rest here. That's the Deadeye going to come out the rally as well. And they did get Yang Yang's Primal Rage. So all things considered, that's kind of the fight that Nova were looking for. They did commit Nexus's Primal Rage, but they've got a lot of those ultimates off the board for Cyclone Coupling. They've got more of a shot within the scope of the next fight or so.
Yeah, there's half of them down right now. X69 is still on 30% though, so he's charging a decent amount. He's definitely getting a lot of impact on this defense so far. We're under 2 minutes. Nova Esports still roughly have a pretty fresh Zarya on their team. Needs to get that Graviton Surge up very quickly. They're only working with the rally for the next fight.
Nice bait out of the flashbang there from Nexus. Not going to get caught by the same trick twice. Pressure on X69, but he knows the team's got his back. He is confident to sit in there. Good kill there on Nexus, but with Jackie and GCGG down, Nova have finally kind of started to hit that breaking point. Deadeye out though from X69. Good block by Crazy S. Does sacrifice the mech for that, but has a self-destruct, and in the interim, One's able to deal and dust off Eternal. That's going to be Nova capping this point out.
And this is where, for Cyclone Coupling, losing GCGG was such a big deal. He had that transcend. It's not quite over just yet. Yang Yang wanted to go for that peg, or wanted to go for the defense play on A, and that might cost Cyclone Coupling a little bit onto B as well, if they lose subsequent members. But Nova don't go for the full chase, and CYC do manage to back out with the other 5.
Yeah,
that one going back to 6v6 though. The next fight should take place around probably this bus area.
Yang Yang did look like he wanted to commit to that, but the rest of the team, not so much. Nova are coming into some decent ultimates here as well, so this next fight could give them a lot of momentum. X69 has only just swapped as well.
This is where after he used the Deadeye, so it's probably the best time to swap. Just give away a bit of time, because now the card is moving past this bus location. They still will get a contest around this next band. But for Cyclone Company, if they lose this one, they might... Ooh, point, let's grab Eden.
Yeah, that's really big plays from Eternal there to catch that one. Speaking of, One is finally charging up a good amount here as well, really dishing out the damage, looking to drill down Eternal. And in the chaos of it all, they are starting to edge out damage-wise. Yang Yang popping the Primal Rage, though, gives them a lot more health buffer. Nexus coming up on his own, and Yang Yang not getting much success just yet. Now we're seeing Nexus going aggressive, and the tide starts to shift again. Nova are pushing forward. They do have to absorb a little as Resty gets slow, but catch on GCGG.
Watch the
and
grab.
now the ultimates coming back in. Like you said, grab available from One. This one does connect. Now they follow up the damage, and it is absolutely wiping the floor. They do commit a self-destruct, probably a bit later because the fight was already won, but at any rate, They've got it. They're going to get this cap.
And you're just watching the charge on the Zarya plays as well. X69 and 1 were so close neck and neck on that ult charge, but it was 1 who stayed alive in that fight, got the healing from his teammates. You saw how close he came to dying. He was at 100 energy for the majority of it as well, so gets their damage in so effectively. We do now move on to C, but it is Cyclone Coupling who finally catch up on ultimates, and they are ready to grab themselves.
Both Yang Yang and Nexus use Primal Rage, and now both traded onto Reinhardt. So it's kind of all even Stevens in that regard. It'll be curious to see who gets that Earthshatter up first. Nice placement on the grab. Laid in with the self-destruct as well. Bit of an awkwardly positioned one, though. Doesn't get anything, but Nexus was still exposed enough that they were able to just out-damage. Nova not getting any counter trades in here, and both committing support ultimates, not really getting anything for it. Bit of a tough break.
That's a big win for Cyclone Coupling. They didn't lose any members. No, they didn't kill any members on the other side either, but it was a 1 ult for 2 ult trades. It's 2 big ults as well. Both Rishi and Oyo had to layer those. In fact, it was Eternal who used the self-destruct as well. So technically a 2 for 2. For Cyclone Coupling, they still get that defense.
Oh, 6 stun shatter. That's just a classic right there. And with that, 1 ultimate. They did commit a rally in there, but call that one a free one. That's, again, another very clean and easy fight win for Cyclone Coupling.
And note that both the Ryans swapped onto Ryan at the same time roughly as well, but because Cyclone Coupling, they got that first grab in there. Yang had a better opportunity to charge the Shatter up. They also won that defense. Nova are quite a fair bit behind. Nexus only just on 50%. Cyclone Coupling still holding on to double support ultimates, waiting to see what's going to happen. Can one land another Graviton Surge? Is it going to get eaten by Eternal? Or is Cyclone Coupling going to have to use some support ultimates here?
Yeah, despite that great street space from Nova, Cyclone Coupling with a lead, having dug in their heels, are looking good. Now Nova approach again for the fight. Just some Reinhardts smacking one another about. Early high charge on 1 though, and that's an isolation on Yang Yang. That's huge already, and it got a Transcendence out of GCGG. They're still drilling the damage in. Look at the damage 1's putting out here. X69 has got a grab, but he's not going to commit it here with the fight already going this sour, and that means 1 can actually preserve his own. Nova now take the ultimate lead.
And that's the perfect kind of fight for a team like Nova as well, where they just find the picks. They don't even have to use their grab. They get a Transcendence off a team that is desperate to save members, and then CYC, they lose that fight anyway. Oyo did have to use his own Transcendence to make sure no one went down, but Nova still gets a push. A ton of ultimates available. Grab ready to go from 1.
Similar ultimates available, similar combos. It's going to be first grab from X69, self-destruct layered up. It's 1 for 1, but speaking of, 1 goes down.
Grab gone.
Exactly. That's such a huge pick. Nova need to just pull back quick smart, because they do still have 1 last shot after this with just about 40 seconds left on the clock, but they do need to successfully retreat. Cyclone Coupling are looking to run them down. They might still get Nexus yet.
That's why CYC, they get the closer, or rather they get the quicker engagement.
Late one on Crazy,
much faster picks, much faster usage on the ultimates, finding those opportunities. And for Nova on the receiving end, they did win a fight on the C point, but so far Cyclone Coupling once again able to hold, able to stall out. Time is seriously running out now, and we could still see, if the fight goes on long enough, that X69 gets another Graviton Surge, because right now he is outcharging 1 significantly, because 1 has actually not used his ult yet.
But right now, 1 does have that ultimate, and that's got to be the linchpin of whatever Nova do here. Here we go, placing it down to the payload. Now they look to get the damage in. Nice one finding Jackie. And that was Yang Yang's Earth Shatter to no effect. Gets displaced on the charge as well and absolutely mowed down. And now X69 closer as he is to that grab. One's the one with the charge in the pocket, like you said, T-Wipe, and there's still an Earth Shatter on Nexus.
GCGG has not spawned yet. He's got the Transcendence. He needs to
spawn out
there. Yang Yang's got to try.
Get it. Oh, Jackie trying to power in on the Wrecking Ball. Didn't quite get there in time, and Nexus did have a Shatter that could have maybe stopped someone up. Really tough break at the very end for Cyclone Coupling. And I mean, there's so many things to credit both teams for, but ultimately that was in overtime. Cyclone Coupling still have a good opportunity to cap out with some time on the clock, and then all they need to do is get that 1/3 of point A.
And Nova get that by the skin of their teeth as well. And the reason why this is still somewhat unexpected or maybe a bit disappointing is you've seen them come out ahead earlier in these kind of fights. You've seen positions where you think this should be a fight that Nova is advantaged on, but they weren't able to win. Let's take a look at this final engagement again. Starting out with 1 on the... No, it's actually he grabs late, or he doesn't at all.
This is the one prior. This is the one where he dies, and it was in that self-destruct as well. Like, that is like maximum value. If there's 1 kill you'd want to be fishing for in that fight. The fact as well that Crazy S had committed his self-destruct, choosing to not combo it up with some kind of grab, because he committed it before 1 died. I mean, that undid so much good work from Nova, and it's then exceptionally good play from them to undo that, right? Redo the good work and eventually cap out.
The thing is, for X69, he was charging his own grav so quickly that because one didn't find the opportunity to use his, every time that X69 did use a Graviton Surge, it was pretty effective.
Yeah.
CYC were winning fights off that, so for Nova, came in with a decent amount, enough time to work with OWC. They lost all of that, only capped into the overtime after getting that full team wipe on 2C. However, we are going to move to now Nova's defense, Cyclone Coupling's offense, and so far, both teams are actually going to start on the 3-3 Goats, and this round of Goats Chicken, both teams are actually going to play the Goats.
Of all things as well, I feel like it's because the spawn is forgivingly close enough that either team could adjust if needs be. This is going to be interesting. This is a head-to-head here that we haven't really seen. Either team has come in with an advantage prior to this. Good rotations by Cyclone Coupling, but eventually they're going to have to muscle their way out of that room if they don't just want to waste time.
Yeah, they're looking for opportunities to find plays. That's one.
That's massive. Blue going down, but there is a good counter trade. And now with GCGG as well, Nova have kind of absorbed that pressure. One does go down eventually, but by the time that's happened, there are no supports left on Cyclone Coupling. There's no carpet underneath them, and that's going to be the fight win for Nova.
This is where it's a close enough fight that if Cyclone Coupling can regroup quickly here, maybe they take advantage. It's not going to be the case, so Ressi is going to taxi a few members back, so we do have to start looking at ultimates. That's the next thing here. One and Crazy S very far ahead right now. Nexus definitely ahead of Yang Gang. So for Nova Esports, despite losing the push, rather despite holding onto the cap, but actually, no, I'm wrong. They hold on to the cap and they have the ultimate advantage, so they're definitely ahead. Cyclone Coupling need to find some charge here.
Which is surprising, because Eternal and X69 actually survived the longest in that fight. Again, same rotation from Cyclone Coupling. Just want to hold up in this room and then pick their moment. They did get a good catch on Blue, but this time Hoyo snipes out his counterpart. And Cyclone just had to go here. They know that they're going to go into ultimates, but maybe they can bait some out. Maybe they can force Nova's hand. Nova, though, not going to take that bait. They're just going to slowly choke out Cyclone Coupling from that position, and that was a mammoth fight for Nova.
And the worst part is, you know exactly as soon as GCGG went down, Nova didn't have to use any ultimates. They were going to win that one 6 versus 5. Weren't going to have to be forced to ult. If they lost a member, maybe then they ult.
Maybe,
but
right?
if it's 6v5, they know they're holding on to all 6 here. And for Cyclone Coupling as well, very difficult fight to play it because they had no ults to try and get some out of Nova either. They've charged some now for the next fight, but again, it's Nova who are so far ahead.
So again, same rotation, shaping up, and this time they're just going to go straight into a grab. Someone predicted self-destruct laid in a bit of an awkward spot, so they don't get anything for that. So that's actually Nova using up some ultimates, not getting anything for it. Now layering in a Transcendence. They know they've got that one up on GCGG, but they haven't got the kills yet, and now they've only got the sound barrier as they try and last out the grab and the self-destruct, which they successfully do. And now suddenly Nova find themselves with nothing left in the tank. The only casualty of the fight so far is GCGG. Nova are playing off a pure numbers advantage, and it is just barely working. They've got the kills through. Once again, Yang held on to a Primal, GCGG held on to a Transcendence, but they are so low on time.
And GCGG actually went off the map there. That was a suicide by him somehow. Must have been pushed off by someone like Nexus or Crazy S. But for Cyclone Coupling, because that was the only member they lost early, he had one of the only remaining ultimates. He still has that Transcendence available now, going into what is potentially looking like a final fight for Cyclone Coupling. Nova Esports, very awkward grabs on both sides, so they couldn't capitalize on them, but they found the right pick in GCGG, and that basically ended the fight.
It's a late change for Cyclone, and it might be a bit too late. If it weren't for the fact that they've still got a couple of ultimates, I think that's going to be the saving grace here, and indeed it is. They've got tools they can lean into as well as frag potential, and look at that. It pays very quick dividends. GCGG is going to commit a Transcendence, keep the team in this fight as they look to close it out, and so save his own life here, and they've managed to find these kills through. Does kind of feel like an inevitability at this point. Nova may go in for a late recontest, but Cyclone are on the cart.
And the timing here is very important for Cyclone Company because they caught Nova out in one of their weak spots where Nova don't really have many ults to use.
Oh, too late!
This is going to be a very late contest like you mentioned, and Nova could be in a bad place.
Yeah, One and Nexus are completely separated there. Blue gets picked off, One's going to go down as well. This is going to cede a ton of ground. And look at this, even Ressia and Crazy S still very late on the retreat. They do get one kill back, but this is disaster for Nova.
The worst part is defeating a lot of ultimates to Cyclone as as well, who still do hold a lot of these DPSs. Again, 3 of them going into this B point. If they don't get forced to change, they're not going to change compositions. Nova have lost a decent amount of ground on this B point already. After what was a very decent A hold, Cyclone coupling, this EMP is going to be huge, or it needs to be huge.
And that's going to be laid in with a rocket barrage. I mean, there's very few tools to deal with this. Eternal taking huge chunks, though. That was nearly a kill, but Nexus is overcommitted. I think he was hoping to get that Primal Rage in time, but did not. Now Blue goes down. Cyclone coupling did commit an EMP, which is at least something as far as Nova's play here goes. But I mean, Cyclone coupling, they still hold all the keys to the kingdom off the back end of this fight. All Nova have really achieved here is burning down that clock a little more.
Just unfortunate coordination from Nova Esports, like you sort of mentioned there. Nexus wanted to get the early contest in there. Thought that he had probably a little bit more support than he actually did. Thought that he might have been able to get the Primal, but didn't quite get that in time as well. So you see this sort of point where Nova are on the cusp of potentially losing B here, but they actually have about 5 ultimates. They haven't had a chance to use ultimates because they haven't had a chance to properly play 6v6.
And luckily they are able to get that second fight on B, and that's a nice Transcendence. Solo grab on Yang Yang, and they're not able to get the kill. He's isolated, but they can't do anything with it. Good stun though on Eternal. Is able to slip through the cracks there. Now it's Yang Yang.
Nova can't catch anyone.
Yeah, drops back out into the Transcendence. So Nova isolated a lot of members, but never quite finished them off. So now both teams just kind of duking it out. The point checking down though, that is so massive. He was channeling a rocket barrage as well. And I think off the back of that, Nova are going to wipe this fight clean. And both teams use so many ultimates. Nova are now the only ones charging them back up.
And that's the thing, Cyclone coupling had a lot of low health members, and as soon as a rocket barrage came through, Nova said, this is one member that we can finally take down. Everyone else far too slippery. They keep running away. We can't catch anyone. But a rocket barrage from afar, that person is staying in the air for a long time by themselves. Also, the Mercy was there as well, so that's a 2-for-1. Cyclone coupling make a big change now for the composition, but they do keep the EMP.
And the EMP could just be the alpha and omega of this fight. Oyo needs a Transcendence, might not get it in time, and is in fact caught in said EMP. They can't get a quick follow-up on him, but they do find Blue out. And look at that, Yang Yang charging up so much ultimate. Does go down. Crazy S needs something with this. Doesn't find
Overtime's coming.
He doesn't get back in the mech either. That is an absolute heartbreaker as we go into overtime. One is got a grab, connects it beautifully, but it's just himself trying to lay the damage in, finds GCGG, and they're desperately trying to get the pain on. And now it's Eternal with the damage output. Oyo gets picked rather as well. We're closer to Nova spawns, but Cyclone coupling the ones getting the kills, and then the ones about to rotate into ultimates. Primal Rage from Nexus on the cart, trying to stall. Nova still losing members. Grab out now, solo one onto Nexus, and one ends up being the sole survivor there as Cyclone do eventually cap B.
And there you go for Nova Esports, because they do get the grab out of Eternal. That hold becomes slightly worth it. They are still bleeding members out. Now they wish they still had a Primal Rage. Now they wish one still had that Graviton Surge. The disciplined thing to do would be to back off, give away B to Cyclone coupling, start holding the chokes onto C with your ultimate advantage. EMP up available again. And for X69, this could be huge because it has been so far.
This is a fight that Cyclone coupling need to get a lot of momentum on. They're coming up into a lot of ultimates. They want this to be low economy. There's going to be a huge EMP. Very quick rundown onto Blue and Crazy S. Nexus gets dropped. And this is also stopping Nova from charging a lot of high-impact ultimates.
This is Snowball pushing through. By the way, you notice that Nova, because they tried to hold on to B, they fed a lot of ult charge onto the side of Cyclone coupling, who now have the opportunity to finish this map with some time on their board remaining going into time back. Very important. They want to have that advantage when we get there.
Someone's got to get on this. Oh, my goodness. Did that make me nervous? Huge grab, nice counter shatter, and a Transcendence laid in. Sound Barrier keeps them all safe, especially Blue, who did get stunned up there, but Crazy S is low. Where's the damage going to come from now? Eternal close to a grab, but Nexus close to a shatter, and Jacky's down. Crazy S out of the mech.
Almost
Eternal
EMP.
and one, both down. Nexus, he's got a shatter, but they've survived the grab. That was a big tool that Cyclone coupling needed. They're losing members, and Nova have a closer respawn. Nexus is fishing for a shatter, finds it, and they finish Yang Yang as he is falling on his back. That's going to be the last kill cleaned up. Nova are going to take out Numbani. Good map pick, as it turns out. We even up our first semi-final 1-1.
And again, Nova Esports, they're just by the skin of their teeth. Got to the point in time, which is a very good thing for them, considering how poorly it went for them on that A defense. Gets onto C, manages to find that completed hold there as well, and are going to tie us up in the series 1-1. But for Nova there, things start to look a little bit sketchy. They made a couple mistakes here or there, a couple of really awkward defensive points, like we mentioned, on that A defense as well. Tried to jump in there, not very good. On the B defense as well. Fishing for a potential hold on to B, losing a lot of members, throwing a lot of ultimates in there, allowing Cyclone Coupling to really seriously snowball onto C, but then finding the right engagements, finding the right execution, and the right timing, I'll say as well, from their ultimates when Cyclone Coupling were still charging, were waiting for the ultimates to come up line for that last push and couldn't quite find it.
And it's curious as well. I mean, all of that is true, but at the end of the day, by the way, that was GCGG going over the edge.
That was
but at the end of the day, I think the thing that really sealed it was actually their offense was that little bit better, and the second one as well is the B defense. The late contest on the payload really cost them, but Cyclone Coupling did a similar thing that also cost them a lot. In the end, it cost Cyclone Coupling more. Here is that late contest, by the way, from Nova. The reason I say that, on B, Cyclone Coupling got 1 fight. Nova got 2. And as much as they did go for that late fish on B that could have been very costly, it also meant they had that opportunity where Cyclone Coupling didn't. So Nova went into C with a bit more time. Cyclone Coupling had a lot less by comparison, only about a minute and a half. They did set themselves up such that they were still likely to win on C. It was risky. I don't know that they should have done it, but the fact that they had the time speaks to a slightly faster passage of play.
So B and C aside, A was probably the biggest difference there because you had a case where Nova just won so many back-to-back-to-back fight wins on that A defense, where Cyclone Coupling just continually ran into walls. It was this 3-3 Winston Ghost that we started on. It wasn't until Cyclone Coupling came out with triple DPS very quickly as well. Again, in a timing period where for Nova, they just spent ultimates. They were at a weak point in their sort of ult cycle as well, in their ult rotations. And if you are fast from Cyclone Coupling and you do not allow time for Nova to react, you suddenly show 3 DPSs. Nova do not know you're running 3 DPSs. That's when you're going to get a lot of value. You find a couple of quick picks, and then you get the point cap. But that wasn't until very many fights into that A offense. So where we ultimately see a lot of lost time for Cyclone Coupling was then, because if they had capped out A earlier, and we do go into C with a bit more time for Cyclone Coupling, there's a case where they actually do finish the map. That final fight for them, where they do not cap out C, they get a wave of respawns, they come in and fight again, they have the chance to actually finish the map. This could be very different, but A ultimately was what cost them a lot.
One thing I think is very interesting as well is the situations in the fights that went the best for Nova and quote-unquote the worst for Cyclone Coupling. I really feel like it was more going well for Nova than it was going poorly for Cyclone Coupling. Were that Goats v Goats mirror, which we'd not seen really on Busan. We saw almost that where Cyclone were running the Goats and Nova were running, it's essentially Goats, but you've got the Doomfist. It's kind of a counter, and it works really well. I think it's very telling that in the Goats v Goats Nova won, because I think that means that Cyclone Coupling actually have to stay away from Goats now.
We have to actually see how these teams want to develop as we head into the further maps in this series. We are tied up now 1-1. When we come back from the break, we are going to get the conclusion here. Who's going to come out on top? Find out after this.